Hello and welcome back to my channel, Checks, Captures, Threats. In today's episode 32 of the chess guide, we have got positional play. So, hopefully you enjoyed the last episode with attacking with pawns. In this episode, we're going to do one way of playing, so positional play. And hopefully by the end of this episode, we can understand what it is and how we can use it. So we've got 4 openings that we can use it from. So the Queen's Gambit, the Italian, the French Defence, and the Nimzonian. So all of them we've covered. Now, what is positional play? Positional play is where you make moves with pieces that are long term, where you might move them at first into weaker squares, but in the long term you're going to get them into much stronger squares that, aren't as weak. So let's do this one, for example. So here, there's a few we can do, maybe. Now, for example, let's just give you to see what I'm saying about. If we bring the knight here, for example, it's a bit weaker. We've kind of gone off of this square. We've kind of left protection of the king. But maybe we want to attack the queen's side so that soon, also we protect this pawn. But let's say now we're able to get our knight to this square. So it took 2 moves. And we're now into the other side of the board with the knight almost, and now we're attacking this square. We put pressure on this. Now, yes, it could be easily attacked, but now we can attack in with it, and that's taken 3 moves from here to get to c5. Now, this is a well-known positional play. It's very difficult. You might see sometimes in your game someone make a really outrageous move that in the long term will work. You do see this in the higher up as well, grandmasters, if we go Karpov and, sometimes even Magnus and Bobby Fischer would even do this. So you've just got to understand that sometimes this will be a very good way. It's difficult to spot as well, so, you've got to be careful. Another thing we can do here as well with this knight is, let's say you want to protect the king a bit more. We're going to move this pawn forwards, and we can move the knight down to all the way down here. Blocks the rook in, but after they move the rook, let's just say we can get the knight now here, and almost, put like Franchettering a knight almost. So we could do that as well. So here, we also have other stuff. We might want to get the knight down here, and now we can play to f4, a very strong move in that. So there is that. So hopefully you understand what I'm now talking about. Now, this is the Italian. Again, hopefully we should be kind of familiar with this sort of pawn structure. So now, as white here, we have a few. Again, we can play this knight now into this square. Now, the reason this is good is because we can get the knight onto g3. And again, a very nice move that, will be able to protect the king. You also have got stuff like whether maybe you want to bring like the bishop down here, for example, to go onto a4 to put a pin. You've got any kind of move. So hopefully now, we can't play positional with pawns or kings, and most of the time not really rooks or queens. It's really knights and bishops that can create most of the positional play for us. So also, you can have stuff like bringing the bishop here back to g3 as well. That is completely viable. So, the next opening, on the third one, we'll do is the French Defence. So we see this a lot in my rapid increase because this is my main opening I play. So, now again, here, if we're thinking positional, we'd like to probably get these bishops a little bit better. It's very difficult to get, for this example, this white bishop. So if we look here, maybe we want to play stuff like this bishop already coming down here. Now the reason this is, we could get the bishop out here soon with this queen. We can even play this c7, and we can attack this e5 pawn. Also, the thing with this move is if we want to go double positional, we can even play something like knight e5, looking to go knight f5. Sorry, knight e7 to go knight f5. So, again, hopefully we're slowly understanding what it means. So, again, some of the best positional moves you can do is when you move a rook and you do the knight here. Whether or not it's in the same position or not, you will most likely have a very nice square you can go to. This is also another viable reason where, obviously, the opening principle, or the middle game principle even, knight on the rim is dim. Now, this probably just about is okay. If you did put something like this here, for example, and you want to play here, that is okay. Just got to make sure that it can't get blocked, and then your knight is useless after. Okay, and the last one is the Nimzo Indian. So, this is one of the latest ones we went over. So, again, here, what we can have is we move the knight, and again, as I'll just show you here, looking at these knights, our king has very good protection now. They're even stopping these squares here and here. These are all the squares those knights and pawns cover, actually. So, a very hefty amount, actually. So, then we also might want to also play something like this knight move, so that we can play up here, for example. Playing into e4, f5, and you can kind of play with the rooks maybe. You might want to retreat the rook and then play it somewhere else. That is probably a bit positional. It's just you'll mostly see positional moves happening with a knight or a bishop. So with a bishop here, you might want to firstly push a pawn and then bring a bishop back, and then we can play something like this bishop, now putting a pin onto here. So now hopefully you're understanding it all. There's all the examples. We're just going to go over them one more time just so you understand, and you can maybe even take notes that if you like the position that you might be able to get this. So here's the Queen's Gambit. Now we have a few. If we want to bring the knight to d2, so we can, protect this pawn. We can even in the long run play this knight here, or, ready to push, even though it's worse. We also have knight to e2, allowing knight to f5, f4, and then we also can do stuff where we bring the bishop back to g3. Okay, the second example here, the Italian, we went over how we can play stuff like the bishop again. That's always a viable move. Even, if we wanted to try and really go like something like this, for example, even if we attack this, for example, we can play right down into h2 to maybe look at a push there. With positional play, you have as many ideas as possible here, that you kind of have whatever you kind of want to play, just as long as there's no threats going on, and as long as it's good enough in the long run, then I think it's pretty much fine. Okay, and the French defense here, we saw how we could maybe even move, if we wanted to move a bishop, it's going to be we could play a few positional moves at once here. So if we wanted to, start doing this sort of thing, then, we've just Frenchettoed our bishop mid-game and got our knight into a position where we can now play f5, and we're protecting our middle pawn here. It takes time to do it, but hopefully you now understand what positional play is. So just to quickly show you the last example here, and the Nimzo Indian, we have other stuff where we can like Frenchetto-ish the black bishop here. So like this. You can also bring the knight over to here, put him that, and we also can bring the knight down here as well, ready for e5. So that is it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed the idea of positional play. Unsurprisingly, the next episode is going to be tactical play, so how we can use tactics to try and maybe fool our opponent into said, worse moves. So that is it for today, so thank you and bye bye.